Hi. I've always been curious about looking more closely at various types of gunpowder. I finally spent some time doing just that. So the first thing I did was I took a little bit of powder out of my discard can. Over the years, I discard a little of this and that powder. And so this picture here contains a mixture of various gunpowders. This is 5 times magnification. That means that the little patch being imaged is 5 times smaller than the sensor on my camera. I used my stacking microscope. With the Mitutoyo objectives, their plane of focus is so thin that in order to put together a complete picture, you have to have a system which can move the objective relative to the subject you're imaging in tiny little steps, in this case 7.5 micron steps. Take the picture and then change the focus by 7.5 microns. Take the picture, and you do that typically about 200 times here to get the full depth of the gunpowder. Anyone who's interested in seeing the setup I used, I'll put a link in the description. Lighting was a big issue on these, and I always knew it would be. You can tell by how reflective these surfaces are that it's real easy to create lighting where you get really hard specular reflections off like everywhere on these types of subjects. I have a section in that video that I've linked about my different lighting. So for those that like cross-eyed stereo, and it really is worth the trouble in this case, you'll see the full 3D relief. But I will be showing stereographs in addition to the regular pictures throughout these slides. I won't be spending this much time on it, but you can pause it and try to look more closely. So I thought, well, let's take a look at the various powders I have on hand and see if I can't identify some of these. So the first powder I looked at is unique, and it's quite unique. Very big, rough, hewn disc extruded from cylinders. It's about 1.5 millimeters in diameter. Again, it's the same imaging, 5 power, 7.5 micron steps. It'll be that way throughout, so you compare apples to apples. So it's easy to identify these guys. And then here is the cross-eyed stereo. When you look at them, it's really neat because these aren't discs. After they're cut, they turn into potato chips. And when you get the relief from the stereogram, you'll see they all look like potato chips. It's pretty cool. So you can pause it and spend more time on it if you want. The next one is BLC2. The discs are about 0.4 to 0.6 millimeters in diameter. They're quite smooth. The cut is pretty smooth, and then the edge of the cylinder is rounded like a donut. You can see an edge here on this one and this one, and you can see like around here how they're rounded. Now you'll also see I get these white rings, and those are reflections from the overhead ring light. And you'll see those throughout, and it's just hard to get rid of them. There is a stereogram. Again, very neat. You can pause if you need to. Then I did bullseye. The discard of this bullseye is probably 15 to 20 years old. So I don't know if it's this pale in general, or if it's just aged for a long time. I have no way of knowing. The discs are about 0.8 to 0.9 of a millimeter. Again, very unique signature. And there is the cross-eyed stereo for bullseye. And then we'll go to CFE 223. Very much looks like BLC2. The discs are about 0.6 to 0.7 of a millimeter. They're quite smooth where they're cut, and then they're rounded like donuts, except there's some greenish tinge in them. And I saw this in here, and I've noted that, I'm just taking a guess here, that CFE 223 has additives which prevent copper fouling or help reduce copper fouling in the barrel. And I have to wonder if this and this guy here aren't those additives. Yeah, I'm just guessing. And so when I got done taking this micrograph, I put some more BLC2 down and scanned around, and sure enough, you'll see these yellow egg-shaped things here and there in them. So maybe that's what that is. And cross-eyed stereo for CFE 223. And here we have W760. The disc diameters are larger than with CFE, at about 0.7 to 0.8 millimeters in diameter. Very kind of greenish tinge on a lot of these faces, and maybe some pinkish hues here and there. But again, when you'd have to look at these really closely to start figuring out, well, is this W760 or is it BLC2 or some of these other ones which look pretty similar. And here's the cross-eyed stereo for W760. And here we have H110. So, you know, I'm loading for M1 carbine. The disc sizes are much smaller, 0.3 to 0.4 millimeters. A lot of greens and yellows and some rust color. Very pretty. And here there's a little pie-shaped cut out of that one. Some of them, it's like you can see the striations of the knife when these are cut out of the extrusion. And some you can't really see that. So I don't know much about the manufacture of gunpowder. Anyone who knows a lot more and can explain what we're seeing here, hop in on the comments, that'd be great. Appreciate it. And here's the cross-eyed stereo for H110. So now we'll come back to where we started and see if we can't, start to identify some of this. It's easy to identify the unique. Big, irregular, very rough discs. I believe that these rods are IMR 4895. There's one sticking out down here, just because I know that's the shape of that powder, and I don't have any around now to image it to verify it, but I'm pretty sure that's it. These smaller rough discs got to be the bullseye. I'm just going to call, these guys BLC2 and this one W760 just because of the difference in sizes, but it really it could be something else too. So there could be some H110 in here. And then there's a lot of these things. They're very rough, small, and thick discs. So you got some here, you got a couple here, there's one there, probably another one there and here. I used to use a lot of Alliant 2400 in the M1 carbine, and I don't have any of it now to image it. So if I gotta guess what's in that discard pile, I'm going to call that Alliant 2400, but I could be completely wrong about that. And here's a very interesting one. Here it's almost like you can see where the blade went through and cut it and kind of pulled the material with it. Anyway, so there's some pretty lame attempts at identifying what they are. I think identifying them chemically is probably a far better thing to do. I appreciate you watching this, and for those of you that have always been interested in looking more closely at gunpowder, we've done it now. All right, take care. Bye.